question of the week. The 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 question of the week. Hello, everyone. That was perfect.
That's so good.
That was good. That was perfect harmony.
Woo.
A lot better than the last one.
A lot better.
My name is John Kim, and I am here with
Leah and Breton. Hello, hello.
We are so glad to bring you the question of the week. And this week's question of the week is, how do we come up with our bumper videos? What's the creative process behind that? So that's why I have Leah here, because Leah, you head up our creative elements of our sermon series. And one of the things that you do work with Michael and Dave and Jen around is our bumper videos.
Yeah.
And so you want to give us a brief glimpse into how you think about coming up with a bumper video in general? Because it's a small part of our service.
It is.
But we do spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Well, we first probably need to define bumper video,
Exactly.
odd title for a video.
Yeah.
So, and we've talked about this as a team. Michael, I feel like you've actually brought this up before. It's like, even in the online space, this video, we've questioned, like, do we need this? It exists in our services because in person, we need sort of like a buffer time for people to get on stage before the sermon. We do our video venues. The thing needs to come down. So it's very functional in some ways. But of course, have seen that over the years as an opportunity to like prepare people for the message.
Yeah.
And then I think as we've transitioned in the online space where we don't necessarily logistically need that transition, we've still seen it as an opportunity to prepare people for what's to come.
Yeah.
So the bumper video is the video that comes right before the sermon in each series. And you and I, so we're part of the teaching team. We sort of help ideate around the development of series. And in the early stages of that, I sort of help with some of the creative pieces and think about like visually, how do we represent this? What are we trying to say about this? How do we sort of pique interest and what are colors and all that sort of stuff. I work with our super talented graphic designer, Michael, and he's amazing at just kind of putting some like, pen to paper, as they say, and getting some ideas out there and thinking about sort of images and colors and all of that. And then once we have a graphic for the series, then we figure out how do we make this come to life? And that is the video, the bumper video. Do
you have a particular favorite bumper video, one that you like the most over the years that you might have worked on?
Oh my gosh, good question. Well, I'm super proud of actually the series that we did in January.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We had someone, a former student of mine, composed the music for that bumper.
Oh,
did you know that?
I don't think I knew that.
And that was really fun
to
see that come to life and sort of see their amazing talent on display. So that was really cool for me.
Yeah, I one of my favorites was the Exodus series. I don't know if people remember that. That one was really good.
That was really good.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw a draft of that and just the way the visuals and the music hit, it was like, I love this.
I know sometimes we joke, our bumper video is like too good because I not to toot our own horn or anything, but there's a lot of content, people out there who pre-make video, like bumper video type stuff that we could easily just use. But as to your point, I think the reason we care about our bumper videos, and it's a part of our service, it's not just like it's a part of our worship service, because I do think it really helps people get into the space that we want them to be in for that particular series. And so what we're going to do is we're going to watch one of our bumper videos. This from our Lent series, our Pray Like This series. This series is a little bit unique because typically for the entire sermon series for like 5-6 weeks, it's usually the same bumper video. But for some reason this year, we're like, let's make a new one every week.
Yeah, that includes different languages.
Which includes different languages.
That most of us cannot speak.
So I'm going to play that the first one that we made, and then we'll react a little bit to it, maybe give a behind the scenes look at some of the decisions that we made and how we got to this process.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll play it now.
하늘에 계신 우리 아버지여, 이름이 거룩히 여김을 받으시오며.
Okay, first, we need to note that this voiceover is done by our very own Jin. Jin, who's behind the cameras right now.
It was so good. And he was sort of this was the very first voice recording we did for the bumpers of all of the languages. And so we kind of were testing it out. And you and I were with him. And he was sitting right here and we did it. And he read it. And I was like, Yes. No notes.
Yeah, you were. This was supposed to be a test, and then you nailed it.
That's
so we're
it.
like, yeah, this
we're
is
using
what we
that.
need.
It's perfect.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
initially, I think one of the very first ideas about the Lord's Prayer when we decided that we're going to be doing the Lord's Prayer was the idea of, I don't know where it originated from. Do you remember? About the different languages?
Yeah, well, I think sort of seeing that there was an opportunity in this series because it's so universal and transcendent. This prayer sort of crosses cultures and is so global. Wanted to intentionally sort of bring that out in the series.
Which I think is beautiful because
Yeah.
our church represents a lot of different people from a lot of different places in the world. And so we wanted to capture the beauty of our church through our Lord's Prayer bumper videos.
Yeah.
And this one is, so each scene, I don't know, it's not explicit, but each time there's a new language, we try to find a first-person perspective of someone walking in the streets of that particular country where that language might be represented. And so this is in Korea, someone walking in Korea. And like for me as a Korean person watching this, like it instantly brought me to want to go to Korea. I was like longing to be there and be in Seoul and to be in Korea. And so I think for people who might be watching this who might be from a different country or they were born somewhere else, or I think it brings a different feeling that maybe might not be felt by just having the Lord's Prayer done in English.
Exactly. And you had such a great idea to do this first person perspective kind of walking through places. And I loved that we did this because it's sometimes when we think about prayer, it can sort of be lofty and ethereal. And I feel like this really grounds the prayer in the like daily, every day. This is like a regular scene. And of course, there's some scenes and experiences we have that are in beautiful places and sort of like mountaintop experiences. But often the call and invitation to pray prayers like this are during like the very everyday mundane moments.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was one of the, sometimes like when we're coming up with things, we disagree on things about what we should do. And I think that was one of the things that we were trying to figure out what was the right balance. And I think that was where initially I was like, what if we go to a prayer chapel and someone's sitting at a prayer chapel, but then you were like, well, not everyone prays at a prayer chapel every single day.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel like it's part of your daily life, which I think is totally right. Most of us are out walking around and going to work or meeting up with our friends. And so putting in that perspective, I think was a beautiful way, I think, to represent the daily longings of prayer that we might have in our lives. So, all right, let me continue with this.
御国が来ますように。御心が天に行われる通り、地にも行われますように。
Well, so this brings me right back to, I don't know what you're about to say, but I was recording this one with Florence, who is someone who's been a part of Grace Chapel for a while on a Sunday morning. And this was also one of the early recordings we did. And sitting there listening to her pray this prayer in Japanese, it was so moving and beautiful. Yeah. It's bringing me right back there to when I first heard it. I was like, oh.
It's so beautiful. Florence, thank you so much. It's a beautiful voiceover. I was going to say, it was a Sunday a couple of weeks ago where it was, I think after we already started this bumper series. So we needed like 12. We were like, oh, we got to get 12, 15 languages. And that's part of the process that's like sometimes so hard is you got to get people to be able to do this. And so we showed up to church on Sunday in Lexington with the gear. And then I asked one of our pastors in Lexington, I was like, hey, like, can I go up at the end of the service and just make an announcement? Is there anyone who speaks a different language? Would you like to record something for us? And so I went up there and there were a couple people who came about.
Yeah.
And some of the people throughout the weeks that you have heard are people from that very moment where they graciously offered to do the Lord's Prayer for us. And so even as we started the sermon series, we're like, oh no, we have, now that we got ourselves into doing the different languages, we need to now.
It's a logistical undertaking.
Yeah.
And
in particular, just like, these are small things, but this is just like an insight into like what it looks like. We obviously, if we don't know the language, we don't know exactly what they're saying.
Exactly.
So sometimes to match the subtitles to what they're saying, we don't really know exactly when the subtitles matches with which one. So that was also a logistical, like trying to figure all those pieces out.
Well, and even the writing, each language has its own nuances. And so we couldn't just rely on looking it up on Google. Like we really wanted it to be accurate. And there's different versions, even in different languages of the Lord's Prayer. And so we were very specific to have the person who was praying each prayer in a different language to be able to really write it out for us and make sure that we had the writing correct and that it matched the English subtitles. So it was even more logistical.
I know.
Hairy than I
know. I think once
realized.
we got into it, we we're like, oh yeah, we're in
Yeah.
We're because there was also a website that already had all the Lord's Prayer in different languages recorded already.
It did, yeah.
And we could have just used that. But you know what?
I think those were AI.
Yeah.
Some of those are AI. That's like, that would have been a lot easier for us to do. But
there was a beautiful website that had that.
Yeah.
But I think we wanted it to feel more personal and from our congregation, which was important to us. So sometimes we make decisions that are not easier per se, but I think more meaningful. I hope.
I hope.
I don't know.
We tell ourselves.
Michael agrees.
不叫我们遇见试探，救我们脱离凶恶。因为国度、权柄、荣耀，全是你的，直到永远。阿门。
That was done by Chris. And
Florence's husband.
Yeah, Florence's husband. And one of the things that we didn't realize at the moment was once we decided to do this, we need to find first person perspectives of these things because that was what the theme was.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if there were any other first person perspectives of people in different countries. Because the reason the first person perspective in the Korean one worked was because I've been to a lot of like Korean restaurants and they'll just have on their TVs, you know, even in America, YouTube videos of people just walking in Korea. And that's why I knew that existed. But I had no idea if we were going to be able to find any. But thankfully, there are people all over the world taking first person footage of all these different countries, which was really beautiful to bring us and draw us into those places. So
it really was.
Thank you to all those people out there who recorded that footage that we borrowed from creatively.
Yes.
Well, I think, I don't know about you, but I feel like this hopefully helps people understand like that we care very deeply about each element of our service. And it's not just something that we take lightly. We really do pray and hope that a lot of these moments would help different people in different walks of lives, and that even in the bumper video that there would be something that God might be speaking into your life in. And so we're hoping that maybe even in this behind the scenes glimpse that as you see our heart and our reasoning behind it, that you would feel like, oh wow, this is really intentional and meaningful and thought through, because that is the kind of care and intention that I think, Leah, you've put into it. Michael, Dave, Jin, you guys have put into our bumper series, our bumper videos, even though it's just like a 30, 40-second clip. It's with a lot of attention and care that we've done this.
And also because, I think that there's various ways that people experience God and sort of are nudged by God in certain moments, in certain ways. And some people hear something in the sermon or in a song, and some people see something expressed visually or more creatively. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So we wanted to draw that out.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this week's question of the week.
And if you had a favorite bumper, write that in the comments.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite bumper video from any of our sermon series?
Yeah.
Let us know. Yeah. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you guys.